The USA's interest is inter alia to keep refugees out of their country, but nothing stops a hungry man. No fence, no river, no sea. There's only one way to stop economic migrants from running elsewhere, also to the United States, and that is to create proper livelihoods in their own countries where they are. The biggest war of our generation on our continent is the war on poverty and hunger. And there's really only one way to win that war. That's by creating wealth. And in Africa, we can do that. There's no sector of the economy of this continent that can create more wealth in a shorter space of time on a broader basis than agriculture can, because we sit with more or less 46% of the world's underutilized agricultural land on this continent. Today we have a network of South African and Zimbabwean farmers of about 4,800 in 44 countries in Africa. And our value proposition is, assist us to do that investment. We do not claim as South African farmers and as Afrikaners that we understand Africa. We know that we do not understand her, but we understand her much, much better than the Chinese or the Dutch or the Brazilians or the Americans or any of the other aggressive investors in the agricultural arena. But what we need to unlock the wealth of this continent and to make a contribution is a policy environment which is conducive to profitable farming. We are gradually losing that even in South Africa. You cannot invest in a country which is threatening to expropriate your property, even at no compensation. You cannot invest in a country where you are not safe, where you have farm attacks and farm murders. You cannot. We need a policy environment which will safeguard investment. We said to them, capital is as shy as a deer. You scare it and it runs. We do not have access to production financing, not even in South Africa anymore. We need that kind of access. There's nowhere in the world where you can grow the agricultural sector without proper access to production financing. And most of production financing hinges on two things: on security, surety or collateral, which is mostly title deeds. You need certainty in property rights. And secondly, you need insurance. You need to be able to safeguard yourself against the risk, because in agriculture your biggest partner is nature itself. And nature can be an uncomfortable partner, especially in an environment as we have in Africa. I also clear it out with my colleagues before we left here that I want to use this opportunity to put the case of Zimbabwe on the table in the USA. My organization is also the biggest representative of Zimbabwean farmers, both white farmers who lost their land in the fast-track land reform since 2000, and also the Matabele farmers who lost their land, their cattle, and many lives in the Guguriundi massacres of the mid-1980s. But alas, the Americans do not have Zimbabwe on their radar at the moment. They do not even seem to be much interested in the rare earth minerals and other opportunities in Zimbabwe. They say to us in no uncertain terms that the principle is more important than the trade. And the principle is there must be equal citizenship, there must be respect for property rights, and there must be environment in which you can earn dollars in the deep rural areas and create jobs where it is needed most. And that policy environment is not there. And they pulled it directly through to our situation here. And Dr. Mulder said that I would cover this. We sat in the White House and we discussed these conditions to restore the economy in South Africa too. And then all of a sudden, from across the table, they said, we've heard you now. We've heard you on farm safety, and we've heard you on BEE, and especially BEE as a non-trade barrier, a non-tariff trade barrier. And we heard you on the Expropriation Act. But now you must hear us too. Because it seems as if this voice is not heard in South Africa, not via your embassy and not via the delegation of government. There are these 4 conditions. The trade relationship with the USA will not be restored until these 4 conditions have been met. And those are the 4 conditions Dr. Mulder referred to. I think there's one more important meeting which we need to report on, and that was the meeting with business people. There are these group of business people who have been importing fruits, nuts, juices, a lot of foodstuffs from South Africa. And they said to us basically, the market here is virtually limitless. There are 3 million people here. They have these networks of shops. When they heard that I'm farming subtropical fruits, the guy who sat next to me said to me, I will buy everything you can produce. The market there is very important to us. It is a massive market. And because they pay in dollar, and because of the conditions they have in terms of standards, the moment you have a farm accredited to export to the USA, you create jobs. And this is what we are after. We asked over and over, is there a way for us to still save our position in AGOA? And we seriously got the impression that the bullet is not through the church yet on AGOA. The decision to kick us out has not been made, and we pleaded. We said, what do you need us to do not to be kicked out? Of course, the new tariff arrangement will probably trump AGOA. We say to them, don't punish the whole of South Africa if you have a quarrel with one of the political parties. Don't hurt us all if the problem can be solved by simply engaging or putting pressure on 1 or 2 political parties to change their policies. And I think that this message was seed which found fertile ground in the USA. I was very thankful after these meetings for the message which I can bring back to farmers, both those who are exporting to the USA at the moment, but more important, those who have the ambition to do so. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. De Jager. Mr. Papenfus.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, thank you very much. Thank you, Dr. Mulder. Yeah, this was indeed a very special engagement, series of engagements, and my role, amongst others, was to explain what's happening in our economy vis-a-vis the relationship we have with the United States. And a big task of mine was to explain why, after 30 years of democracy, why when we were supposed to leave distinguishing our nation as a nation of race arrangements, that 30 years later we're back into a very racist society where even commercial decisions are made on the basis of race. And people were simply amazed on the other side in America to what extent South Africa wants to arrange our society and our economy on the basis of race. And no country can afford to exclude a portion of their population out of economic life. And if you want to exclude whites and the Afrikaner population from the economy, South Africa will pay a huge price. South Africa cannot afford to exclude us. In fact, South Africa can afford to exclude anyone from the economy, but South Africa is excluding a number of our people from the economy. We have a 45% unofficial unemployment rate, if it isn't more. That 45% people that can work is excluded from economic life. While they can, on the one hand, they have the potential to make a contribution to the economy, to make us rich, they are now a burden to the economy. Our youth unemployment stands at 62%. They are a burden to the economy instead of making a contribution, and the reason for that is poor economic policy. And that we had to explain. And there's no business confidence, very low business confidence. People, foreign investors is becoming very shy to invest in South Africa. In fact, the trend is now going out, not coming in, and we cannot afford that. So the question had to be answered, what is it that causes that? Now, there's many reasons, but one of the very, very big reasons for this is South Africa's transformation policies. The fact that they want to re-engineer society and even business in terms of race, redefine business in terms of race. And I took a lot of effort to explain what is happening with employment equity, which affects American businesses. What is required of business now is to conduct business on a spreadsheet, divide the whole entire workforces in terms of race, all races, the different races, and then in gender. Now, I'm not going to explain that here, but that I had to explain in detail, time and time again. And I gather, although they believed what I said, because that is a fact, they couldn't believe that the government can go so far to interfere so deep in the life of a business. Now, the message is this: foreign businesses aren't interested to comply with that. You cannot tell a businessman, and you cannot tell a foreign government, a foreign business investor in South Africa, how they must appoint people in their businesses. If you tell them that, they won't go do business in South Africa. I had to explain that if you leave business and you go into your own business, that at some point you will be forced to take in a colleague, a partner, not of your choice, but based on color. Now, here's the message. Business cannot do that. And this is the message to government, and this is the condition that has been directly, clearly put forward by the American government. Do not put this restrictions, race restrictions in terms of BE and employment equity on our businesses in South Africa. This is a condition, it's very clear. But you must also understand that this is what the United States has said now. But this will spill over to Europe. Europe won't be interested. Nobody that invests in a country is interested to prescribe to, please come invest here, but we will tell you how you must invest, who you must appoint, what extent of your partnership, of your shares, your ownership you must give over to that, hand over to that country. That is a form of expropriation without compensation. Hand over to us a portion of your business. No businessman, and I'm talking South African business, can do that, and no foreign business is interested to do that. The government needs to take serious serious note of this position. Our economy is in decline, and it will not stop. The decline will continue, and not only continue, it will accelerate towards a cliff unless government stop this. And this is the message that I carried over. For them to tell you what is happening here, this government will have to abandon their race policies. It's outdated, it's not appreciated, not in South Africa and nowhere. That was the message. The message is then also in our discussions with business. They want to do business with South Africa. South Africa is rich in manpower, we are rich in resources, we can make this South Africa very prosperous again. But our legislative framework as it stands in the way. And this is something that this government will have to deal with. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Papenfus. Mr. Opperman.
Dr. Mulder, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for the opportunity. I handle government affairs and public policy for C5 Capital in Washington. C5 Capital is a venture capital firm, a US company that invests in Africa and in Southern Africa. And we have received various delegations, hosted various delegations from South Africa because of our interest in promoting relations, bilateral relations, to facilitate closer economic ties. We are very thankful for the Trump administration's interest in Africa and its interest in peace, also because of the signature of the Congo-Rwanda peace deal. That is going to be a major boost for US investments in that part of the world. And South Africa is and has been a natural ally of the United States for many years. Since 1994, there has been a close relationship between the United States and South Africa and close bilateral ties. But being in Washington, we've realized and become increasingly concerned about the breakdown of that relationship. And also become aware, being there and knowing what's going on, that there's definitely a breakdown also in communication, and it was clear to us that clear messages were not getting through to facilitate an improvement of the bilateral relationship. As Afrikaners, I'm an Afrikaner. Andre Pinaar, the founder of C5 Capital, is an Afrikaner. We felt a moral obligation to do what we can in the interest of South Africa, in the interest of the bilateral relationship, to do something about this. And because of the fact that the Afrikaner community has become a bone of contention and has become very topical in the bilateral relationship, we decided to invite an Afrikaner delegation to Washington, because we realized that a lot has been said about Afrikaners, but the Afrikaner community has not had an opportunity to speak on their own behalf. The choice of delegation was based on the fact that Dr. Corné Mulder represents an important Afrikaner constituency in Parliament, and we have, over the last 2 years, been inviting Dr. Mulder to come over. We thought it was also important to get a perspective from the business side, and that's why Gerhard Papenfus was invited, because of the role of his organization as a backbone of the South African economy in terms of small and medium business owners and employers. And then, obviously, Dr. de Jager is the CEO or chair of the largest agricultural organization in Southern Africa and plays a very important role also with regard to very topical issues relating to farm safety, rural safety, but also the opportunities that the United States offer for the export of agricultural produce. And I must say that we had really good access. The Trump administration really opened their doors. We had high-level access at State, the Department of State, at the White House, on the Hill, both in the Senate and in the Congress. We were able to get the message across and distinguish between South Africa and South Africans that are pro-American, that share the values of the United States. South Africa and the US share the same values, and to distinguish between South Africa and South Africans and the interests of South Africans, and then very specifically policies that is creating conflict and tension between South Africa and the United States. So I think it's been a bigger success than we anticipated, also because of the fact that the US administration and the White House very specifically had a message that they wanted to get across to the public of South Africa and asked that this delegation deliver that message. So from a C5 perspective, our role was just as a facilitator. We have an interest in an improved bilateral relationship because we believe that Africa is a very important investment destination for US technology, both in energy and as well as in the digital economy, in AI. The world is shrinking, and the US is a major opportunity also for Africa. And we believe that South Africa must play its role, and we all have an interest in an improved and a normalized bilateral relationship. Thank you.
Yes. I just want to add one thing before we go to questions, if I may. And then I could go to this. Thanks. Come now. Now, I just want to once again repeat the 4 preconditions that were given to us in the White House and asked that we convey that in South Africa. The first one was that with regard to rural safety and attacks in the rural areas, with regard to farms, farmers, black and white, doesn't matter, with regard to workers in the rural areas, there is an insistence, a condition that the United States Trump administration wants the South African government to proclaim that as priority crimes immediately, and that it should be investigated, all incidents by the Hawks or some institution on that level. That was the first one. The second one was that the ANC should publicly, unequivocally denounce kill the Boer, kill the farmer. I specifically asked, are you talking about the government of national unity? What are you talking about? And the response was, we want the ANC as a political party to do that in public. The third one dealt with the whole question of expropriation without compensation. And the argument was put, and the condition that was set was to say there can be no expropriation without fair market compensation after all the legal steps were taken in terms of what is needed in terms of the rule of law. And the last one dealt basically then as a precondition with black economic empowerment. And the condition was that American entities and American firms should be exempt from those race-based policies that were mentioned just now as non-tariff trade barriers in order to normalize the relations between the United States and South Africa. We then, that evening, draw up a press statement from our side to convey this message. And because we did not want to have any uncertainty, we then consulted the contents of that statement with the White House to make sure that we do not convey the wrong message. And there were one or two small amendments, and then the statement was issued. So anyone who thinks that these conditions are figments of our imagination, or that we went, as somebody said, we stood outside the White House and thought, what can we do? No. You will do that at your own peril. It should be taken note of that these things are set as preconditions for the normalization of the relationship between the United States, South Africa's second largest trading partner, the strongest economy in the world, the strongest military power in the world. Thank you.
Thank you very much, gentlemen. A very insightful update and a very busy schedule indeed. Ladies and gentlemen, I will open the floor now for question and answers. I would like to ask you just to keep the questions very short and direct. If you could kindly just indicate who you are and which media house you're from. You are welcome to direct your question to any of the gentlemen here, and they will answer it. We'll take it from my left to your right. I've got a mic here, I'll bring it to the floor, and you can proceed. Thank you very much.
En ek is Tanya Heinz van Marula Media. My enigste vraag vir julle is, wat sê die Amerikaners, hoe het hulle president Ramaphosa sy afvaardiging se besoek aan die Withuis beleef? Het dit erger gemaak? Het dit hulle saak goed gestel? Wat dink die Amerikaners van daardie besoek in die Oval Office?
Kan ek beantwoord? Yes, ek gaan in Afrikaans antwoord. Kom ek sê so.
Someone please translate the Afrikaans question on the chat.
Nie in een gesprek. Iemand wat gedink het dat daardie gebeure in die Oval Office tot Suid-Afrika se voordeel was. Dit was gesien as 'n fiasco, as 'n verleentheid, en ek gaan nie in die detail ingaan nie, maar ek kan hulle verseker dit kon erger gewees het. Maar daar is gestop op 'n stadium om dit nie verder te vat nie. Maar die behouding was geweest dat dit 'n fiasco was. En ek wil met alle respek sê, ek dink dit is dalk bietjie naïef enigiemand dink dat as gevolg van die verhouding wat op die rotse gegaan het in Suid-Afrika tussen ons en die VSA, dat mense op 'n maklike, ligtelike manier gou die probleem kan oplos en sê, man, is nie so erg nie, moenie bekommer nie, kom ons praat gou oor handel. Nee, die VSA is adamant, die Trump-administrasie is baie sterk in hulle standpunt en hulle gaan nie daarvan pad gee. So ek bevrees waar ons was, het niemand gedink dat dit 'n groot sukses was nie. En om terug te kom Suid-Afrika toe dit aan te dui dat dit 'n groot sukses was, is ongelukkig feitelik nie korrek nie.
Baie dankie, Dr. Mulder. Next question.
Dit is Gerhard van de Westhuizen van Hectare 24. Dr. Mulder, can I ask you, what is the view of the government of national unity in the United States? Do they think it's a good thing? Do they think it should be kept together for another 5 years?
If I understand you correctly, what is the view within the United States towards the government of national unity? I think, and colleagues can also join in, I think the people we spoke to want to see that the government of national unity is a success, that it operates and functions effectively, and that it can go forward and complete the term. We've had 1 year now, there's 4 years to go. In the United States also, the creation of the government of national unity brought positive responses. It brought better investment trust, if I can put it that way. And there are serious concerns that it seems that the government of national unity is in trouble. But in general, we didn't speak to anyone who said we think it's a bad idea to get rid of it. No.
With the SABC, my Afrikaans is so good. So the first question that I want to pose to you is that you said you went to the White House. From the President of the United States office, who did you exactly meet? My second one, the Trump administration is having serious political and economic challenges in the US, and there are fears that Republicans might lose majority. Don't you think this trip might, yield fruitless results? I'm just going to squeeze in more just to wrap up last two questions that I have. South Africa is an independent state. How do you expect America to interfere in internal affairs of another democratic state? And lastly, what were your submissions regarding, the genocide claims and the refugee issue? Thank you very much.
Let me try to respond. If I do not remember all 4 of them, you will remind me. My colleague can also assist. When the South African delegation went to the United States with President Ramaphosa, I did an interview the Sunday before they left, and I said, I think the visit by our head of state is premature, and I predicted that it would be a diplomatic catastrophe. And the reason I gave was, given the strained relations between South Africa and the United States, you do not start these things on the level of heads of state. If you do that, things will play out the way they did in the Oval Office. You start these things on a way lower level between officials that start to interact with one another and to see if there's some common ground. So our intention was not to meet elected officials in the White House at the highest level. That would be the wrong approach. We met with senior officials in the White House. Our information is that the file on South Africa has been given as an assignment or the responsibility to the Vice President. So we met people in the office of the Vice President. We met people in charge of the National Security Council, as well as in the Homeland Security Council. I don't think it's appropriate at this stage to give their specific names. I'm not going to do that. You can contact them if you want to and ask who they are. But the information that we've given, you can confirm that with the White House. I've got no problem with that. The second question with regards to the Republican majority, and maybe this is a future exercise. That's what the Democrats in the United States hope for. They hope to get some power back. At this stage, there is control in the American administration on the level of the executive, the presidency, both in the Senate as well as in the House of Representatives. And we are dealing with that. It may be that in the midterm, the Republicans lose control over the House, we don't know. But President Trump will still be President Trump and will still be the president for the next 4 years. And there are some people that say, well, this is it may be followed by another 8 years with another Republican president. There's a gentleman called J.D. Vance. We don't know. But it's not for us to say, well, we think they may lose power and because of that it is a wasted opportunity. No, it's definitely not. The reality is that the current administration has reached out to South Africa. They've reached out by name to the Afrikaner people. We will be foolish not to act on that, and we are constructive and positive. Then, what do we think about the United States interfering into the affairs of an independent country, South Africa? No country in the world nowadays can live in isolation unless you want to become North Korea. You can't. There's interaction between all countries in the world. International trade deals with all countries. Whether we like it or not, South Africa, the United States is the second largest trading partner in the world. And the Trump administration has taken upon themselves, and President Trump personally, that his focus is very much on creating peace wherever he goes, whether that be in the Middle East, whether that's in the DRC and Rwanda, with all kinds of approaches. He did that at the end of his first term with the Abraham Accords. There are now new accords. And part of our message was we would like to see an Abraham kind of accord for South Africa to unlock the conflict that is here. I don't think the United States is interfering with South Africa. If South Africa prefers the United States to have nothing to do with South Africa, we should just ignore these 4 preconditions and it will happen automatically. If we believe it's in the best interest of South Africa, ignore these 4 preconditions and there will be no involvement, separate from interference. Our concern is, and we've made the point, Professor William Kumede did an investigation and he came out with a report about 2 weeks ago that says, conservatively, 1 trillion rand, that is $55 billion US, was in the name of black economic empowerment spread amongst less than 100 people in South Africa. I would like to interact with President Kumede and get that details of that. I would like to know who these individuals are, because that's not black economic empowerment. That's black elite enrichment. And if you then look at the unemployment figure in South Africa, the largest percentage of the population that suffers from that are black people. That cannot be in the interest of anyone. So if we can move away from those kind of policies, then we have to do what is necessary. I don't see it as interference at all. A government that does not want to take the right steps and benefit the majority of its own citizens should perhaps then be redirected, and it's not interference. The last one with regard to the genocide claims. And before we left, we said to each other we should expect to be asked in the United States about genocide. Interesting enough, we were not asked that question. No way, not once. And I would say it depends on what your definition of genocide would be. And I think if I say the word genocide, each person in this room will have perhaps a different perception in he or her head. What does genocide mean? The fact of the matter is, we did not go there to claim a genocide in terms of the perception of people who think that there are dead bodies strewn all over South Africa. That's not what we said. Although the reality is, if you look at our murder rate, 80 murders every day in South Africa, that is serious. There's serious problems in that regard. So the fact is that if you look at the rural situation and you look at farmers, and I can show you now, go with me, I've got pictures of that. Go to the Nampo exhibition facility in the Free State and look at the mural with thousands of names there of farmers being murdered on farms in South Africa. What is that? The point we did make was, yes, there are murders in other sectors of society. There are murders on the Cape Flats, that's true. There are femicide, we know that. There are gender-based violence. But when it comes to farmers, that's the only community in South Africa where people fill stadiums of people and then are being led in chants of kill the farmer, kill the Boer. That is not normal. That is not acceptable. In South Africa, we've been so traumatized, we are all suffering from Stockholm syndrome, that we think it's okay. Even the Constitutional Court decided it's okay. It's not okay. Nowhere else in the world does anyone think that that is acceptable. So we did put on the table, obviously, and that is one because I think not because we said so. The United States administration has its own views on that. We heard what President Trump said right from the beginning. And that is why he expects the ANC to denounce that specific slogan. And if you look internationally at the definition of genocide, we can have a discussion on the definition of genocide and the different steps of genocide. If you start to identify people in terms of race, if you start to discriminate against certain sectors of society, you are taking one step after the other towards creating that kind of reality.
Thank you very much, Dr. Mulder. Are there any more questions from you?
Hi, Dr. Mulder, good morning, mates. Thank you, Kize from AFP. I just want to find out, did you get a chance to meet some of the refugees or farmers that have left the country? And if so, what was your impression?
I'm going to ask Dr. De Jager to refer to that. Because you know what happened, yeah.
The answer is no, we did not speak to the refugees who went over, but we had a number of discussions about them. We did meet with these young farmers who every year go to work on farms in the USA. In my organization, we try to keep track of them, and this year we will be keeping track of about 16,200 of them. But we heard while we were there that some 25,000 visas have been granted for this season. Now these youngsters come back with some cash in their pockets, and more important for us, with some exposure to technologies and machinery which we do not have yet, and also with management models of farms and primary production, especially digital technologies, which is valuable for us in the future. We did discuss with him the program, both in the White House and at the Department of State, and it's very clear that they have their minds on pushing through with this, apparently there's about 25,000 on a list awaiting access to this program. From our side, we said to them, we are not in the business of exporting farmers or any other economically active parts of society. For us, first prize would be to keep people here and give them a proper livelihood here. But there are these three categories of people who are on those lists. There are some of these youngsters who work there every year and who feel that they understand the system there, that there are opportunities for them which are not available here in South Africa. And this is why they would go there every year. They see more opportunities for them in the USA than in South Africa. Then there is a category of people who are families of middle-aged white men who, because of BEE policies, have lost their jobs and their livelihoods here, who cannot find a new job here, and they believe that they will have a better future in the USA. And then there's a third category of traumatized people who fell victim of farm attacks. It's a much smaller group, and who are we to say to them, you must hang in there, you have a role to play still in South Africa. But we repeatedly said to the officials on that side that we are here to stay in South Africa, and everyone who leaves our shores to go there, for us it is a loss.
Thank you very much, gentlemen. Any more questions before we close? We've got one more question at the back.
You said that you are set to meet with the, you said that you will meet with the president to just brief him in terms of how your trip went. Have you engaged him? Have you set a date or communicated with presence on that?
Unfortunately, our plane landed about 1 o'clock yesterday morning. So the fact that we are awake is a bonus. No, there hasn't been time to do so yet, but I'll do so immediately as I can.
Thank you very much, everyone. I believe that concludes this session. I don't know if any of the gentlemen here in front would like to make any closing comments before we end the session.
Let me just conclude perhaps by saying the following. We come back with a message of hope. It's a message of hope that South Africa can be turned into the winning country it can be. There are certain problems that need to be addressed. And if you look at the Government of National Unity, for instance, I believe there are two fundamental problems there. The parties that bought into the Government of National Unity did so because we all agreed that we should have economic growth and we should have job creation. It seems that ANC is under the impression that their current economic policies are sufficient to make that possible, economic growth and job creation. Reality indicates that for the last 15 years we barely made 1% growth and we've got this huge unemployment. Clearly, we need a new economic policy, or we need adaptations to the economic policy, and it seems that our second largest trading partner is also of that view. So that's a challenge that needs to be discussed. The second one, why did the focus come onto South Africa by the American administration of President Trump at the beginning? It's a problem that international relations in the Government of National Unity is being treated as the exclusive domain of the ANC. Because of that, South Africa decided to take certain steps. And it's not South Africa, it's the ANC part of the Government of National Unity. When a statement is issued condemning Iran, the attack of Israel on Iran, in the name of the South African, in the name of South Africa, it's not even the Government of National Unity statement, because international relations is exclusive domain of the ANC. If we want this Government of National Unity to succeed, we need to talk, have a serious discussion amongst ourselves about economic policy, about international relations. But we come back with a positive message. We can turn things around. And I think we have to turn things around, not only in the interest of the Afrikaner community that we went out and to put their case, and other minorities, but in the best interest of all South Africans who at the moment don't see economic growth and don't see job creation. We're optimistic, positive, it can be done.
Thank you very much, Dr. Mulder, and the rest of the delegation for your time and for being here today, and also to the media. I do appreciate your attendance, and this then concludes the session. Thank you.
Wow, so there we have it, ladies and gentlemen. Wow. So, quick summary, and I'll respond to any comment I find along the way. So, the Mzansi Afrikaners have spoken, they've delivered what happened in the US, and there are a couple of things. The closing was a message of hope that, hey, there's hope, we can sort this out. So they had to explain how our race laws interfere with business, and the Americans were like, what? Oh, they control that much. Oh, they want to tell you how many coloreds to employ, how many whites, how many Indians, to the number. Wow. And so the Americans were shocked about, what the heck are these people doing? But the Americans are so willing to do business with us. And one of the companies that was represented in the news conference are investors who actually, the guy's an American, I didn't get his name, and he was saying the Americans are ready to buy. The Americans were saying, we'll buy everything from you. So one of the demands is that they're saying the ANC should distance itself and denounce Kill the Boer publicly. Wow. And they made it clear also that this is not just a statement from them just because, they're demanding it. The White House has signed this off and said, say it in our name. One of the journalists was asking, but then is America trying to control South Africa? And they said, no. America's just saying, we will engage with you. We will do business with you if you are like this. I don't think that's control. If I go to a shop and I say, I will only buy if you allow me to swipe, otherwise I'm leaving, I'm not controlling the shop. They can just say, no, we only take cash, and then I'll leave. I didn't control their business. And so no expropriation without compensation. And they're saying we can do business with you, but not under your current laws. Now, Mulder said something powerful, because remember, he is the leader of the Freedom Front Plus, but Groenewald is in cabinet, Mulder is not in cabinet. Makes you wonder about trying to play both sides, serve two masters, be in cabinet and represent your party. Because this helps, because Mulder can speak freely. He's not breaking any cabinet rules. But he says South Africa made a mistake by trying to send Cyril Ramaphosa. Another problem that he says is this, and it makes all the sense in the world. 60% of South Africans said the ANC no longer speaks for me. Yet when it comes to Israel, to Iran, the ANC does things on behalf of a country where 60% of the citizens rejected them to speak on their own. And in the government, so-called government of national unity, the ANC, when it comes to international relations, just does what the ANC wants. So South Africa is being held hostage by a party after 60% of the citizens ignored that party and demanding to be the sole representative of South African voices outside of the country. That is a hostage situation. And so they say it would have been foolish not to go after Americans mentioned Afrikaners by name, So then they went as an Afrikaner delegation. That makes sense to me. And I think if Lesotho has to release a statement and say something about Swazi speaking South Africans, I would hope some Swazis go across and check what's going on. Right, so America is not interfering, just giving conditions. Yeah, so there's this report about apparently Kumete spoke about a study that R1 trillion has been spread among 100 comrades in the name of blacks. In the name of BEE. And so that study needs to be seen, because we need to say something about that. And then they asked them about white genocide. I'm gonna attach the video. If you're watching this after, watch this video here. And he says Americans said nothing about genocide, right? Because the discussion is farm murders, and the first demand from America is make farm murders of all races a priority, because of course farmers and rural areas are most susceptible to murders, and they're saying get the hawks on it or something. But you can't. One murder is too much, and if a government is not responding well enough, well, that's a problem. Why do you want to make it a complicated discussion? Just stop the murders. Simple. Oh, it's a genocide. Just stop the murders. No, but the Afrikaners, they forget that in apartheid. Just stop the murders. Oh, but these race. Just stop the murders. No, but America. Just stop the murders. This is a nice song. I think we need to make a song. These racists are. Just stop the murders. But why is America? Just stop the murders. You see how simple the solution is? Just stop the murders. Someone please hashtag just stop the murders. And so those are all the things that were reported back by the Mzansi Afrikaners. That's it. I've given them a name. Like it or not, they are now named. The Mzansi Afrikaners then came back with those reports. Let me read your comments and then we are gone. Oh, and the question in Afrikaans was, how did the US receive the visit? Was it a fiasco or was it awesome? And America was not impressed. So the reports we got when they came back were just trying to save face by saying, no, it went okay. No, they thought it was a mess. How did the US experience the delegation? Oh, okay, got that. Thank you so much for translating that. I did catch that the response was translated. It was not a success at all. And South Africa is not independent with all the loans they make. True, it's funny how they want independence, but the independence is not through responsibility, it's through crying. Of course, ANC philosophy is you're a consistent victim. Even when you're a billionaire in charge of a whole country, you're still a victim. Black economic enrichment, someone says. You're right, Bonsai. We had to go, but do the ground first. Get your story straight and put on a show and a life. Yeah, or you could just stop the murders. More like black economic elimination. Stockholm Syndrome. BE laws including no property rights. SA is an ATM for the comrades. Stockholm Syndrome when victims, yes. Stockholm bank robbery situation. Give South Africa and all of his people a chance, please, Mr. Ramaphosa. Please step down. Yep, I think the battle is further than that. We need to get the balance right. We need to have ANC, EFF, MK being in opposition. And Yes, squatter camps is apartheid's fault. While pretending they are holding peaceful talks, not all South Africans were presented in the talks between the National Party and ANC. Wow, we're turning this into a history channel, aren't we? If you were not represented on Robben Island, wow. Historians, please wait. You're a great man. Thanks for bringing us the facts, no agenda. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Shongololo. Shongololo? Hey, we are almost related. I'm Shongwe, you Shongololo. I found out today that I am from Zimbabwe. Kasi boy. Soweto boy apparently is from Zimbabwe. Born at Baragwanath Hospital, now called Chris Hani. The agreement benefits ANC comrades and NP beneficiaries who represented the poor white community, the IFP. Rex Human, go play in the traffic. Assumes, oh yes, one of the things that that Mulder made is that the ANC assumes we got this. So they now get into a coalition government, but with the expectation that they must push all their policies and nothing changes. But South Africa voted for a change. And so they want foreign policy to go on like they're still a 51% party. They want economic policy to carry on like they are a 51% party. And that can't work. ANC, please get this. South Africa rejected your majority. You no longer speak for South Africans. You are a coalition partner. Okay, let's finish your comments and I gotta go. They don't only their family and friends, they're all talking about our people. Okay, the ANC must be asked hard questions about their actions. TRC for all, not for ANC exclusively. TRC, this is not a history channel, people. We're talking about something that's happening on the 2nd of July, 2025. Take your history somewhere else. Go study science or maths or engineering or something. You'll make us a prosperous country. These historians, political philosophy people are really slowing us down. Cyril is delusional, needs to go speak to professional. Love your channel. Thank you, Arno. ANC does the same with their BE. Is he gonna get fired for taking overseas trip? He's not in cabinet, so no, can't fire him. He's not in cabinet. In my book, all the BE money that is stolen, I agree. ANC doesn't speak for. In fact, they are against what I believe. Absolutely. For the record, people, ANC does not speak for me. I'm a Christian, so they can't. All right, and I'm not saying all South Africans are Christians, but I'm just saying for me, and for everyone else, they can be anything else. But I'm a Bible-believing believer who believes in the Lord Jesus Christ. So the ANC can't speak for me because they oppose all my values. In fact, in their strategy and tactics, they make it very clear that they consider someone who holds my Bible-based beliefs is an enemy of the revolution. So there we go. They don't speak for me. But hey, I'm happy to be a South African, and my fellow South Africans, 40% of them who gave them 40%, cool, we live together. But let's not forget that they are 40%. They are a part of parliament and not the parliament. There we go. Cling, cling for that. Please subscribe and press the like button so that others can get to watch this. We are about to hit 30,000. So since we started the channel, we're growing at 10,000 subscribers per month. Thank you, guys. And we don't ask you very much. So everyone on this video, please go and subscribe. All right. The problem is thousands of cadres already in jobs, ANC positions. So NEB is a difficult thing to do for ANC leadership. They will get hell from cadres. Yeah, no, indeed. Pharaoh can't let them go because he's got his slaves working for him in Egypt. So the ANC is stuck where this is not just about governance. They owe lots of people lots of things. And if they end BE today, the ANC collapses tomorrow. As an Afrikaner, I salute you, Mr. Shongwe. As a South African, I'm about to read the rest for what you're doing for all South African citizens. Baie dankie, meneer Kotze. Baie dankie. This is what summer werking looks like. And we win. In fact, I spoke about the 10th plague that will win something. I am waiting to do something, and I will come with that last plague, the 10th plague, the firstborn murder. I will show you what the ANC's firstborn is, and we will together go after the firstborn. That's when Pharaoh releases. We are South Africans. We are not South Africans. Yes, we're South Africans. So South Africa will prosper. No man can serve two masters, for either he'll love the one and hate the other, or he'll respect the one and disrespect the other. You cannot serve both God and Karl Marx. I'm so happy you joined. Thank you, guys. So we got the report and implications for the GNU. Ooh, it's getting hot. I mean, if they have a meeting today and there's Groenewald sitting there talking about some other issue, and Ramaphosa has to know that Groenewald has had his party member Mulder adding flames to the fire and undercutting the same government. It is hot in the GNU meetings. It is red hot. But it's awesome pressure because this is necessary. And so, yeah, thank you to the guys for adding this one piece to the pressure that's required to take South Africa to prosperity. Listen, we're not going to have shacks being a standard feature of our country. What do you take us for? You think we're stupid? We think we're going to just sit there and listen to your revolution nonsense while having to drive past shacks every day? You are crazy. You're out of your mind. We coming for you, and you can't stop us. We have a particular set of skills. We will find you, and we will unalive you, politically, of course, because you have taken our citizens hostage. You don't know who you're dealing with. We have a very particular set of skills. Skills found from centuries of holy wisdom, which exposes all your tricks and gives us all the tools. So we will find you, and we will unalive you. And if you don't believe it, good luck.